Welcome to the most unreasonable video that I've ever made. With 80 players and several thousand neutral units loading into the map. The unit limit itself is set at 32,000. The name of the game and the circumstances are both beyond all reason. It's free to play, but it will cost you a whole chunk of your free time and probably more of your sanity. So if you have either of those still, before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. Help me kind of the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,080 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As the commander's already building up along the east and western fronts. The red team versus the blue team. With the neutrals, the scavengers, I believe, down the center. Not aggressive unless you attack them first. They can be captured to be utilized later on. But utilizing your own base is probably pretty important. A lot of people will load into full metal plate, a map that's filled with metal, a plate of it if you would. Okay, sorry. And see an opportunity for greed. How many metal extractors can I possibly get? And the answer is not as many as you think, as Zone is learning that. He dug too deep and too greedily, and by the time he has even a single unit out of his Legion bot lab, the Armada pawns are ransacking his entire economy. And he might be calling out for support from his team, looking for someone to blame. And if that's you, well... Oh, Sid. No. Is he going to be first? Ah! The heavy laser turret! With the extra range, and that's first bolt. The first commander down. It's not about how many commanders you lose. It's about making sure your opponents lose more. And whichever team has at least one commander at the end, while the others do not. That's all it takes to win. Usually there are a few extra steps, but we'll get there. And, well, we have Me Too. Right alongside Me Too. Wintergaming. Right down the center with the Legion Cacophony. Just spraying and praying in the general direction of the opponents while the northern front completely crumbles. Some hoplites coming out from mending the front line with those tier 2 units early. Meanwhile, Centurions holding the south. The neutrals mostly serving as a stopping block so far. Neither side really moving. Well, wait. He's capturing a fusion reactor with the commander. Only commanders, I believe, and commandos, so just command-related things, can capture units, at least at this stage. But if he gets that fusion reactor, obviously it could be a bit of a liability, but having several thousand more energy, sure, you have plenty of space to build wind turbines, and they're super lucrative. And, but a fusion reactor for effectively free is a very good price, just like liking and subscribing. So... the blue team to the east, pushing past both the neutrals and the relatively open central grid. As the south holding for now. Wintergaming may be a bit ambitious with his forward push, but he's been known to bite off more than he could chew. And we'll just let that simmer for a while, just like Mephisto, lancing at one of the brute assault tanks, puts together a beamer. And the brute... okay, beamer. One of the best early turrets for defending against relatively strong tier 1. A very good DPS. The fusion reactor is coming online, as Haz and Fefa will complete capturing it. I believe it will be at full HP, but that's still not a lot. That thing's a liability, as much as it's a boon. Another fusion reactor to the north. We've got new grenade trying to hold. More trickling through. Mayo Muncher is on the eastern team, and with 80 players, the colors get a little confused. And back in my day, we only had 64. Okay, Grandpa. I bet you installed Total Annihilation on Windows 3.1. I don't... No, that was Warcraft 1. Did they make a sequel? Sorry. Meanwhile, the south. Me Too, with a bunch of pawns trying to run through. The defenses and the literal walls doing a lot to stall things out, but the pawns make it past. At least for now. Though, will immediately be cleaned up because they had no idea what they were going to do when they got that far. We've all been there. Suffering from success. Well, hopefully. Meanwhile, the napalm continue to be laid out by the Belchers from the Legion. We have Centurions down the center, a sharpshooter with its long-range blaster helping to support. More cacophony, more static defense at the front, as the front line is a bit convoluted. A squiggly one at that, but it'd be weird if it wasn't when it comes to how many players are involved. A lot of artillery being thrown up. Believe, is that a tremor or just basic artillery over to the left? Unclear, but they're pushing through. Meanwhile, another commander taken out. A whole bunch of tanks, including the Lasher missile trucks, which have significant range, though they do a light tickle from very long range for tier 1. Enough tickling, though, and people get real upset and potentially permanently damaged, emotionally and physically. Enough about that. Meanwhile, the neutrals still only... we have just Bites. He seems to be capturing some of the neutral camps here. Definitely not as big a factor as I was kind of hoping or dreaming of. But Haz and Fefa with the early fusion reactor, which makes up over... at the time, it made up over 10% of the total energy of the team. I think they've shored it up as the Factorial players on the back line are starting to turn this map it starts to look like the CPU that you probably can't afford to play this game at the FPS you're watching it right now. But at the same time, what a glorious sight. Meanwhile, Wintergaming being absolutely bullied down the center, left with just his D gun in order to try to defend. The artillery bashing forward, desperate for support. But unfortunately, the reinforcements don't seem to be coming anytime soon. The front line pushed forward as Bombfather doing a great job living up to his name. The Decurions scattering their Gatling gun spray, but they're no match for this amount of combined firepower. Meanwhile, Torrio caught on the open field, but finally some grunts come up to support. A couple Zars blasting their way through. Meanwhile, to the north, though, there's no defense. Thule! What have you done? Where are your units? Where is your life? Commander has been annihilated. It's a disaster. The front line is completely breached, and it can be almost impossible to stop the bleeding once it starts, because most of your defenses are obviously concentrated at the front. You're not defending the flank, which actually increases the damage if you're getting hit by it. But the hoplites out of the gantry, the experimental gantry with tier 3 and tier 3 adjacent units. I say that because a lot of the units are not that high damage, but if they don't have damage, they usually have great mobility. Though, one thing that doesn't have great mobility is fusion reactors. You can jot that down. And the one on the front line, I believe he captured it here. One for the Western team, but... some gremlins, stealth tanks trying to sneak through, pinged out. If they get close enough to enemy units, they can physically see them, but otherwise they don't show up on radar. And honestly, line of sight is incredibly important. The map is dark and full of ticks, and radar is the best way to get some extra warning, some vision. Actual vision is even harder to come by, and there's almost no way to get vision of the back line without aircraft, or by punching through with a massive trench warfare style push, which it seems like we have in store. As the lines are drawn, the economies have reached, the red team with only 100,000 energy compared to 150 for the blue team, making great use of the extra space created by simply taking that front line early. And maybe grabbing a few of the neutrals as well to help out. But the Tremor artillery blasting its way past. The Tremor heavy artillery spewing out a rapid fire merry-go-round of death and destruction. That's what I came up with. All right, I was struggling, but the gyrating... No more gyrating. We've had too much gyrating. And other things that I probably have never said before and ideally will never say again. EMP missiles being thrown out. Atomic bomber looking for a target. Me Too cloaked. Live and Let Die is targeted. The Lich. Oh no! Oh, but he found the shot. He went right over the top. I think he targeted ground just in time to blast through. And now, the fat boy is moving forward. With the front line is starting to heat up even more dramatically. The artillery from the blue team, the counter artillery, and bastion laser tower, or heat ray tower for the west. The napalm scattered throughout. Black both aggressive and defensive. Knocking some out. There's a pawn launcher flinging pawns across the field, which it's kind of in the name, yeah, but kind of surprising to see it so relatively early on. There's 11.5 thousand units. Buildings do count as units. They are individual entities. Some of them can actually move in certain fashions. Buildings are kind of just like an idea. They're a social construct. Ideally. Because if you construct with just one thing, it takes forever. That's kind of how the build power mechanic works. But I digress. Meanwhile, the tremors down the center, consistently scattering throughout the midfield, creating a bit of a no-bots land. As time goes on, and the tech goes up, a nuclear missile, but an anti-nuke interceptor will intercept it, which only sounded a little dumb in my head. A little dumber out loud. But we do it live. I don't... Meanwhile, me too, trying to sneak by. But the commander itself, he's cloaked, which means units have to get close enough to actually see him, though he should be on radar right now. There's no way as a jammer. The Bastion is targeting him directly. He's ambitious. But the line between ignorance and bravery was crossed, and the line from the Bastion heat ray tower was clearly more powerful. Meanwhile, looks like Wintergaming has managed to restabilize the front, but only for a few moments, as the nuclear bombers of his teammate will retreat. And he'll be perfectly fine for now, though being chased down by some of the fighters from the blue team. Meanwhile, the front line has been shored up with the efforts of the gunships and multiple recluse rocket spiders. The pawns are continually being launched as far as possible across the lines. The neutrals are either being destroyed, conscripted, or somewhere in between. Sometimes both. Porque no los dos. And the lines are still heavily in favor of the blue team. As you can see, the sheer amount of infrastructure they've been able to put together. But unable to break through decisively as the economies start to scale exponentially. And beyond all reason, there is no limit to the amount of resources you can gather. They don't run out. The only thing you run out of is space, which is why we didn't invite your mother. But the back line and having even more, like even another few lines of reactors could be 50% more energy in the later game, as we see things getting more and more strained down the center. And also in the processing as the game, well, tier 3 units, the Sol Invictus, making sure everything nearby is hot and bothered. All the tanks literally trying to hit the ends of the earth. And is there any answer? The best answer, and the most limited one, to a tier 3 unit like the Sol Invictus is the disintegration gun from the commanders. At close range, a commander can whip out their D-gun and destroy any unit. Of course, other units can immediately attack them. And the commander has barely more HP than a stronger tier 1 unit. A nuclear missile is launched. From which side? It's kind of unclear. Wintergaming moving in. Anti-nuke. Something hit over to the back right corner. It looks like a nuke at the very corner of the map. And Winter manages to snipe off the Sol Invictus, because if you want things done right, sometimes you got to do it yourself. That's the commander's motto, but the bomber's able to take out even more. A line of bulls is charging forth, and up to the north, it's, well, another nuke. Right down the center, trying to struggle. Wait, what? Where did that nuke come from? More self-detonates at the back in order to free up some space for units to actually move forward. Winter moving in behind those Karis heavy assault anti-swarm tanks. Yes, some units in tier 3 have quite a description and a lot of jobs to do. Meanwhile, the bombers take out another round of the economy as the commanders desperately try to hold. The bombers issued orders probably about 45 seconds ago and will bomb the open field now that the buildings have been cleared up. Meanwhile, down the center, Juggernauts and Sol Invictus stomping their way across. The Juggernaut, the strongest tier 3 unit by pure stats, unless we're counting the Behemoth, which is by pure HP. The Sol Invictus has, in my humble and modest opinion, a lot more utility and potential DPS, though the Juggernaut especially. Part of the value is the Juggernaut, when self-destructed or even just outright destroyed, is effectively a walking nuclear missile. And speaking of not walking nuclear missiles, another one is launched towards the north, and the anti-nuke isn't there to intercept it. It's a direct hit and a disaster for the front line, as they had so much success earlier on. And it appears that through all the fire and fury, Wintergaming has been handed even more economy to deal with. Did he ask for it? No. At least not that I could tell. Did he have it thrust upon him without even realizing? I believe, if I was to hypothesize, yes. But you work with what you have, and now what he has is 3 commanders scattered through 3 different parts of the map, and a desperate situation to defend. But another D is whipped out, and another Sol Invictus is put down. But another wave of bombers are coming across. The Starfall long-range plasma cannon from the Legion is raining down towards the front line. But is it raining supreme on the field? Or is it just a light drizzle to inconvenience them? The bombers? A area attack, carpet bombing everything nearby, and successfully scattering across the economy. Though at this point, the front line, almost irrelevant economically. Holding it so the back line is not outright obliterated is much more important. But, well, Invisible Troll lights up a couple Sol Invictus, but he pays with his life. More tier 3 taken down, but the commanders are starting to dwindle. 28 remain for the red team. The Myrmidons down the center, their weakest point in the early game, but now their best chance to break through the center line. The Legion tier 3, multiple Juggernauts, another bombing run, and off we go. Another hit. The anti-nuke intercepts. The lines are thin, but thin is not gone. I was hoping for something more profound, but that's what I came up with. As both sides continue to fling projectiles from various distances. Oh no! A nuke or something close enough lands, and another chunk of the base taken out. 500 to 300k energy. Wintergaming comes up. He stares down the Sol Invictus. The Sol Invictus pales in comparison to the hubris. It backs off as another legion of Legion goblins make their way forward. The hoplites. But both sides, another nuclear missile. I don't believe it's being intercepted. Wait, what? Maybe a little dangerously close. But we're at 15,000 units. And it doesn't seem like the teams are slowing down as the economies only grow. And the potential results of a breakthrough, even more dramatic. More fighters knocked out of the sky. The Sol Invictus marching forth. The Razorbacks doing a great job to hold. But what's happening to the north? The Tremors. There's just so much. Commander destroyed. A critical hit down the center. The backbone of the push for the red team. Undercut heavily by a precise bombing run that found some fusion reactors straight a little bit too close. The behemoths are trying to march forward, but the sheer amount of interference, 15,000 units, but how many on each team? The red team languishing at 5,500. Blue, on the other hand, over 10,000. Now, quantity does indeed have a quality of its own, and the quantity and quality of units do seem to be in favor of the blue team. But one good nuclear missile, one bombing run, one shot, one opportunity could be enough to turn it around. It probably won't. But there's always a dream. And also, with the sheer amount of long-range plasma cannons, one good run, or one well-targeted Starfall volley, punching through the shields, or other long-range plasma options. But these bombing runs out of Duffy, just continually finding gaps. He goes through the center, where he knocked out the fusion reactors before, and the fighter cover simply isn't there. There's almost nothing to stop him from just bombing his way through to another set of fusion reactors. Though they may take most of the bombers with them. The vast majority go down alongside. Collateral damage is not something that's entered into the vocabulary, but the back line. And a nuke at the front. The lines are pushed back. It appears maybe some friendly fire, or the Juggernaut walked over the wrong thing, which is a real possibility if the pathfinding gets, this is a technical term, janky. But the Starfall's desperately trying to hold more Phoenixes to the north. The heat ray bombers from the Legion scattering over, giving a sauna treatment to the demons themselves, which feels just a little bit ironic. The flamethrower mechs and the Sol Invictus just lancing through. Things getting real hot and heavy. The Starfalls made it through. A Starfall comes online. And the shield coverage to the south is actually pretty mediocre. Meanwhile, Arnie, 2 Juggernauts. Dangerously close. He lines up the shot. He whips out the D, and he takes them both. Unfortunately, they also took him in turn. And another one bites the dust. The bombers come through again. Tanking both the economy and the FPS. Oh no, the bombers! Even if they can't unleash their payloads, they can still bomb. As, well, these are the Tier 2 Legion construction turrets, or metal extractors, which are actually construction turrets in and of themselves, which is incredibly useful, especially in this sort of situation. Commander has been annihilated. More commanders suffering. It is 24 to 38. I'm not sure if they just didn't lose any or they were able to resurrect many. But the blue team starting to get a very clear advantage. But the battle continues. As it's not about the results, it's about the journey. Wintergaming trying to slink along the sides. Find his niche if you would. And some might say he did with this game. And I am one of those some. So hopefully, you'll add to the sum of likes and subscribes. And Juggernaut's killed by a D-gun as he whips out the D and manages to evade getting killed in turn. Even knocking out some of the hoplites. More tier 3 coming up. Another bombing run. Oh, sweet mother of mercy. The nuclear salvo. The interceptor's coming up, but it only takes one. Apparently, there were not enough. The interceptors, numerous, and hold for now. Meanwhile, the Soul Invictus is breaking through. The South trying to hold. Wintergaming with a single commander, a dream, and let's be honest, probably a little bit of spite if I was to editorialize. Another few nukes trickling out, like those last few drops after you spill your nuclear arsenal prematurely. As we've all done at some point in the past. No, a commander! Wintergaming goes down, but wait, there's more of him. I can't target him! That's because he's within jamming range, and also super evasive and surprisingly spry, despite most of the day working on his sit-down comedy routine. Another volley of nukes, this time from the Western team. Will hit several of the long-range Astraeus plasma cannons. We do have some Ragnaroks online as well. The Armada plasma. Nukes being thrown out. They can hit anywhere on the map. Anti-nuke interceptors can only cover a certain amount of it, which is their vulnerability. You have to have anti-nuke for, it's probably about a fifth of your side. It's pretty generous, but the nukes themselves can target anywhere. The bombers trying to break through. They get very close to the fusions on the back line, and a chain reaction between it could be absolutely devastating. Somehow, Wintergaming survived and returned and whipped out another D. But he didn't quite hit. He dodges to the side, stands very still to try to reactivate the cloaking, hits the Juggernaut, and the shield will hold. At least for now. What a shot, if I do say so myself. And unfortunately, one of the bombers make their way through. And cores out yet another chunk of the economy. The blue team with a clear, well, they've annexed so much of the map. All of the neutrals have actually been destroyed. The sun rises. But not the sun the red team was looking for. The anti-nuke is flung out. Automatically so. But the nuclear missiles are closing. It appears there's enough this time. For now. Another run to the north. Phoenixes. Fighters will intercept. The dragons trying to cut out any of the anti-air. The epic dragons. No, just regular dragons. Sorry. It's regular old dragon. Really cool. Actually, very hot dragons. The heat rays of the Phoenixes going over top of the flamethrowers of the dragons in a immolating fire for both sides, trying to see who can withstand the heat. Another hit. Somehow Wintergaming survived. He now has plus 75% health. As you get more and more veterancy for doing damage as time goes on, and nothing does more damage than a disintegration gun. Technically, it does exactly the damage of whatever the unit has left in HP, which is, he can really rack it up. But holding the line, these starfalls, more nukes intercepted. Were those air bursts? Indeed they were. Sometimes you gotta tilt the camera over to try to find out. As they get chased down. The line holding. Oh, that nuke is... Why is that nuke? The fusion reactors. We see a line of phoenixes up to the north. The dragons to the south. More nukes up. The new indicators we have, very helpful. Actually, a relatively recent patch. The enemy cannot see this, but they might not be able to see either. In the glare of that many fusion reactors exploding. The mass Astreus. Wait, did the nuke get intercepted at the last second? The mass Astreus moving forward. The dragons will slice through. More nuclear missiles flung out on both sides. A dime a dozen at this point. When the economies reach into this many zeros, another disastrous impact. And the base itself almost entirely obliterated. The dragons, the nukes will rise from the silos as the silos are destroyed seconds later. Oh no! One broke through! Intercepted! No, wait, no. There's no interceptor. Oh no, it's a disaster! The chain reaction will be surprisingly contained. Wait. Oh no. Even more nukes to the south. Targeting Wintergaming. But it looks like a nuclear winter is coming. Somehow survives. Another wave of nukes. The bombers will fill in the gap in the corner. Will not survive. Wait. The fusions didn't actually land. Or get targeted. But eventually the bombers should be enough. The heat rays to the north. The commander! Go big or go home. Lines up a double! And another! The Sol Invictus, the Juggernauts, try to chase them down. The entire base is gone. The bombers scattering fire. But rage against the dying of the team. Do not go gently into the night. At least is what I would say if I were that commander. Hypothetically. Eventually, the combined fire from multiple more nuclear missiles landing. The base mostly cored out. Commander destroyed. Another set down. Critical damage across the front. The bombers. Duffy's bombers. Finally. Bringing the commander low. And with it, the end, potentially, of hope. Commander has been annihilated. The blue team has expanded like a cancer. Or a beautiful ocean. Depending on who you were rooting for. Across over half of the map. These starfalls will slam into the almost redonkulous amount of shields. Unable to punch through as with 860,000 energy per second, 31,000 metal. For reference, a behemoth, the largest HP unit in the game, only costs 20,000 metal. They can make more than one per second, though I don't think they'll need it. As still over 13,000 units, despite the all but total annihilation of the red team. The commanders, at the end of the day, remain supreme. But the attempt to defend exceeded reasonable bounds. The blue team will power through, as it seems the explosions and the implications of them even powering through the CPU. There's not much left to do, Commander destroyed, as the commanders for the red team number very few. But really, it started with me, and maybe next time it'll be you. Because the game itself, it only takes a download. It's not on Steam, maybe yet, but you can maybe invite your crew. Did I break the UI? Oh, wow. This is rare. Very occasionally. But the UI outright crashing. Which, to be clear, games rarely reach this scale, if ever. 15,000 units. Obscene economies. The game itself crashing. And that's how you know we do it live. But, as I'm finally excited to announce that for the first time, it's not clickbait, it's literal. We broke the game. Most games, even of this one, are a little more concise. A bit smaller scale, less intensive. Some might even say more reasonable. But we went beyond it. And sometimes we go too far. We dig too deep, too greedily. And speaking of, it'd be awesome if you got the means of motivation to check out Patreon, YouTube membership, but liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. At least that's what I hear. Make sure to check out this video that Jimmy picked out just for you. And otherwise, thank you for watching. Hope I made your day at least a little bit better. Hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay unreasonable.